Anyway, so it's the beginning of the new year, and it's a good time to kind of set out resolutions. I know some of you want to become artists when you grow up, and some of you are painting just because you enjoy it. And however you are, that's fabulous. I have a lot of students that are motivated to paint, and especially after my talks, but then they go home and they go, well, life got in the way. You know, I have other things to do, and that's quite common. I find myself oftentimes doing that, and even when I travel and paint outdoors, and especially if you're a plein air painter, it's like your intention is, okay, on this trip I'm going to do 10 paintings. And then, you know, like over this last holiday season, I brought 12 canvases. And I said, I'm not leaving till 12 canvases are done. Well, I mean, there are certain things that happen like weather and tourists and wind. I mean, wind is the worst thing. If you're a plein air painter, the wind's the worst. But, you know, tourists and all this stuff. So I didn't get that many done. So, you know, and I have to be okay with that. Oh, really? One? Yeah, one. But the thing is, and you know, it's just like with the rest of us, the thing that we regret when we get back is that we didn't fulfill our resolution to do that. And you feel like, you know, I could have tried a little harder. And I know a lot of you do that every 2 weeks when you bring back your work and you go, I should have. I should have. I should have made that an issue. And it's interesting because as I work with a coach and I listen, you know, as for you guys, because I'm your coach, I'm listening to, you know, well, what is it that I could provide that's missing that would make you interested in painting? And you know, if a lot of you come to class, and it's the nature of us, and it's my nature too, that if I sign up for a drawing class, I draw all the time. And then as soon as that class stops, I stop drawing. And it might be 2 years till I sign up for another drawing class, and then I'm busy drawing again. And so a lot of people take classes just to be in the conversation of painting, because if this were taken away, you probably wouldn't paint at all. Or you would find a class here, and a class there. All of you would probably try really hard to find a replacement for me. And you probably wouldn't be very successful at doing that, but there are some good teachers out there, but I don't know if they live necessarily in this block. So you know, it is kind of difficult to stay on track and to make that part of your life. The thing that I see with a lot of students is that they feel like the homework assignment doesn't really pertain to what they're working on, doesn't have a value at the end when they get done with it. Isn't you know, it's interesting that everybody else does it and you can learn from it, but it's not something that you necessarily want to do. And that's perfectly fine. You don't have to be that kind of artist that produces work. In fact, if you produce with the idea of producing paintings as a product, you probably will fail, because paintings are a poor product to sell. You know, the selling part of painting is a whole nother business as to the creating, and I'm more interested in the creating process, although I do like to get into the selling part of it, and it's part of what we talk about. But what is it that I could offer that would take that feeling that you want to give to a student to make them want to create? What is it that I could do that so that you go home excited and keep that excitement? And I keep thinking with my Power to Create class, I always try to kind of think about the viewer. What are they getting? And it's always about sharing. And part of the class is actually bringing work in and sharing that work with the rest of the class here. So a lot of you that do the homework assignments, kind of are doing them because you are participating in the sharing, and you're equally as interested in the outcome of what you have to say. Wouldn't you say that, Lavon?
Yeah.
That's kind of, so it's kind of interesting to do that. But is that enough to motivate you to do the work also? And I feel that painting is about curiosity, about actually being more interested in the creating part of it than the outcome of it. And so I find interest in like taking on a challenge and then just being more curious about what can I actually do to make that work, instead of is that something that I necessarily want to sell or all that. Because you never know in the process of doing these assignments where the next little pearl of wisdom comes into your painting. Because in painting, as you paint, every time you put a brush stroke down on the canvas, you are learning something about life, and you're learning something about you. And you might think, oh well, I'm not interested in necessarily painting this particular homework assignment. But then you ask yourself, not doing it, what am I not learning? And if I'm not doing it, what other people are not learning? Because you find that the paintings that show up become these wonderful little windows into possibilities that you might be able to bring into your painting. Conversations about composition, lighting effects, temperatures, all the things that we've discovered. And I have to admit that working with you guys as a group has opened my doors at becoming a much better lecturer, a much better teacher, a much better coach. And it's because I have participated in your participation of learning this stuff. I've learned, temperature and stuff, and I've thrown stuff at you that I just am curious to see what you bring back. So it's like, okay, let's throw this down and let's see what comes back. And I'm just as equally interested in seeing what comes out of it. But you should be interested yourself with that idea. There's no outcome outside of this world. You come, you live, you die. And the things that you do are the things that mark you for being here. And the more you do, the more value you have as a human being in this wonderful world of life. And painting is one of the things that we do, and you have families and things, but painting is something that we do. I get a lot of people that ask, why do I give out a free book on my website, and why do I give away videos? And the television show that I have really doesn't have a lot of financial gain. And a lot of people think, oh, being on TV and stuff, oh, how great, you must be a celebrity and drive a Rolls Royce and all that stuff. But especially when you're on public television, more goes out and little comes in. I sell DVDs off of the television show. And when I first developed the show, I was like, oh, God, I can't wait to do it and make some money with it. That was really my intention, And when I first started to plan the television show, and a lot of people think it was given to me, but I created it. It seemed like a really good idea. And I looked at artists like Rob Ross, who was on PBS, and I said, if I could get on PBS, I would be wealthy. And my mom would be proud of me. I'm not selling my work down at Fisherman's Wharf. But, it's an odd feeling when you are working on something for almost 20 years. And then that day happens where you're sitting at home and all of a sudden the Grandview logo comes on. And you realize millions of people right now are watching you. It's not just a group like this. And it's odd. It's really odd. And I was anticipating what it would be like that first day. And I was thinking, sitting over my old push-button phone, how am I going to take all these orders? Because as soon as that hits, I am going to be wealthy. All of this scrambling and working, I'm going to make it. That's it. That's all I got to do. I got to get it on the air. So I got it on the air. It was a Sunday night, nationally. And I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the very end. You know that part that says, if you'd like to buy DVDs of the program that you just saw, please call our 800 number. 1-800-511-1337 if you decide to call. And I sat there, pen in handy, lots of paper, because I knew there were going to be a lot of calls. And I was thinking, how in the world am I going to handle that kind of volumes of calls coming in for DVDs? And so the show ended, and the phone didn't ring. I sat there, and so I looked at the TV schedule to see if the Super Bowl was on, you know, that something must have been on that nobody saw the show. I mean, we were in close to prime time. It was 7:30 at night. It was like, it ended at 8, so we were like really in prime time spot, especially when my telephone number was. And I'm like going, this should be working. I don't understand why it's not. And so I said, okay, well, maybe it's a fluke. So the following week, it comes on again. And I wait. It's, you know, and the 800 number comes on. I'm ready to take the calls because surely I'm going to make money at this somehow. And nothing happened. And I thought, oh my God, I spent 20 years developing a television show that nobody cares about. And I thought, I've wasted my life. I have wasted my life. Nobody cares. Of course, it was a little premature. It was a little premature because plein air painting wasn't a fad at that point. You know, this was back 10 years ago when plein air painting was not something. In fact, most people were doing watercolor studio work. So plein air painting hadn't caught on. And then the phone rang. And I answered and I go, hello, the Grandview. This is Stefan Baumann. How can I help you? You know, I think I answered like, how many DVDs would you like? You know, kind of thing. Because I'm desperate at this point. You know, I've got thousands of dollars invested and, you know, I get one phone call. I'm like, you know, make it, you know, I'm Anthony Hopkins. What is it? How do you close a sale? So I'm like, you know, so, and I said, how can I help you? And he said, I'd like to speak to the artist who's in charge. And I go, well, you're speaking to him. And I'm thinking immediately he's going to, you know, place an order, and I'm really excited. Got my little Visa machine ready, going to process this order. And I said, you know, something to the order, you know, how many would you like to order? And he goes, I don't want to order any DVDs. And I said, okay. I said, so why are you calling me? And he goes, I want you to know that I used to do what you did. What you do, I used to do, but I developed diabetes and they amputated my feet. And the day that I got amputated, I put my supplies in the garage and I haven't touched them since. And he says, I want you to know that after seeing your show, I called my grandkids and told them to get the paints out. And that he was going to paint again. At that point, I realized that what I did was more important than the benefit of receiving money. When you can touch, move, and inspire people with your work, the process becomes kind of much more interesting. And I realized that my show is not about selling DVDs. It's about inspiring people to paint. And when I teach the Power to Create class, I draw on that experience that I had when I was 14, going to Hawaii and seeing an artist by the name of James Featheroff. And I was so touched, moved, and inspired by his work that I wanted to be a James Featheroff and be able to touch me, a 14-year-old kid that I don't know, like he didn't know me, to change their course of life. Because originally I was going to be a bowler. You know, I wasn't going to be a painter, I was going to be a bowler. And that one painting flipped me. And if you realize that everything you create has the possibility of changing people's lives. And you work with the intention, even if it's a homework assignment, that this painting will change your life. This painting will change something. There's something in this, at this point, that will matter. And if not, make it matter. You will see that every painting you do is a gift. It's a gift to you, and it's a gift to others. It's a gift in this group, that those of you that participate in bringing the homework assignments are giving gifts to everybody here. And yet the biggest gift are the ones of the people that do them every week. Right, Chris? She's one of the people that do them all the way. But anyway, so if you do nothing more and then intentionally create for the sheer process of creating out of curiosity and giving a viewpoint that is yours, not to get what I suggest right, but having a viewpoint that has value, that somebody else might just glean a little thing, then all of the time that you spend working on it matters. Every homework assignment matters. Every time you sit in front of a canvas matters. And when you are too tired, when you feel like you don't want to create, just think about what you're missing. You notice, it's like when I think about the work involved of doing another segment for the Grand View, because that was our first season and we had to do a second season. When I thought of the work involved that it took to do the second season, I had no motivation to do it again. But then I thought about this one guy that called me with the diabetes. And I realized, what gift am I not giving to others by not doing another show? And so it's purely the gift of sharing. And every moment is precious. And the thing that you regret, just like me when I travel, is not having done the work that I wanted to do in the first place. So I know a lot of you are motivated. It's the beginning of the year. I invite you to paint every day of your lives. Okay.